Hey guys, welcome to another episode with me, Quibski. So I'm wearing the AWS user group provided by Davao. They have their cacao as a big logo here. Not the durian because durian is quite famous. Cacao is also actually quite strong in Davao province. So today we'll look at the newly launched portal of Tutorials Dojo by John Bonso. So as of last week, they released the portal, the Tutorials Dojo, for their website, and we'll see how it works and what's different with it. Okay, so you'll notice that you'll have to create an account at Tutorials Dojo, and then you're given basically your homepage. And what's unique with this offering is that they actually have a fourth section for your exams. So they have a time mode, review mode, section based, and then the final test. Okay, so we're quite familiar with the time mode, where basically it simulates the actual exam, and you're given the exact number of questions and also this same number of items. And the time mode, basically, you have four sets of questions that is randomly organized so that you can take it again and again. So basically, that gives you maybe close to 200 or even more questions that you can answers. And let's look at the courses that they have. So basically, also the cloud practitioner, they have the cloud practitioner exam, the 3 associate exams, and also the professional exam here. So you can see that there is a 6 paid as shown here, but they also actually gives you a sampler, or basically the free version of their course or practice exam. So here you have your sampler. So let's just take a quick look at their sampler. So in the sampler, I'll choose the SAA, Associate. It's free to use. You're given basically a time practice mode and also a review mode, which I'll explain later, and also the bonus section. Okay, so at time mode, you will see that because it's free, this version is free. Let's just check it out. If I click the start quiz, I'm only given 15 questions to answers with a 30-minute timeline. Let's look at one of the questions here. You are working for a startup that builds IoT devices and monitoring applications. They are using IoT sensors to monitor all data by using Amazon Kinesis configured with default settings. You then send the data to an Amazon S3 bucket after 2 days. When you check the data in S3, there are only data for the last day and nothing for the first day. What is the root cause of this issue? A. Someone has manually deleted the record in Amazon S3. 2. By default, data records in Kinesis are only accessible for 24 hours from the time they are added to the stream. 3. Amazon S3 bucket has encountered a data loss. And then last, access of Kinesis stream to S3 bucket is inefficient. Okay, so you have very good questions here. Let me see if I can actually answer this question at this point. It's actually quite difficult even for me, since I don't use Kinesis often. So it's a default setting. So I don't want to believe that somebody deleted my S3, so I'll pick the by default. Maybe the configuration is not yet set, that my Kinesis info has been set now. So I'll just pick this one. Since I'm on the timed version, if I click save and next, it gives me the next question immediately without giving me a response if my answer was right or wrong. So this also mimics your real exam. with fewer numbers that you can also flag a question for review like this. Okay. What is a little different here though is that if I pick an answer, for example, I'm just randomly guessing, you'll notice that I can no longer review the question because I already have an answer. What's also interesting is that I cannot remove the question, or I cannot pick, I cannot unanswer. And so it will always be marked as answered. This is quite different from the actual exam where you can both answer and flag the question. Okay, so that's a difference there. With the actual exam, you can do flagging and also answer differently. So you can retain those two. So I'm not going to go through all 15 at this point. So let's click the quiz summary. So I've answered 2, and I click finish quiz, and let's see our results. So basically, my first question, basically I got it correct. By default, my stream are accessible up to 24 hours and they're added. Okay, so I got lucky there, or maybe I knew, who knows. And then question 2, my random answer, it gives me here that I'm using, I pick randomly cloud formation. I didn't even read the question. And so IoT core would have been the answer, and it also gives me an explanation of why my answer is incorrect or correct. Okay, so here it's incorrect. If I look at the first one, it also gives me an explanation why my answer is correct. Okay. So that is the time mode. Basically, it's like your actual exam given you that time. Let's look at another course. Okay, so let me pick the SA Pro course. Okay, so now I'm looking at a paid course. Okay, so this is not the sampler course, this is a paid course. And you'll see in the paid course that I have I have 3 practice modes, 1 final test, and a bonus section. And inside the practice modes, I have 4 set of questions here. This is time-based. My instructions is also given. In the review mode, I also have another 4 set of questions and instructions. So let's take a look at the difference when you're using review mode. Okay, so let's open an SA Pro review mode. Okay, so I'll click Start Quiz. I'll just collapse the button on the left. Okay. So this is a good question. You'll notice that in Tutorials Dojo, you are given the category of the domain. Now, in your real exam, you'll not be given the category at all. You'll have to infer which domain they are asking. Okay? So that's a big difference. So let's see the question. You are working as a solutions architect for a leading media company that stores their video animation in several S3 buckets. To protect the digital assets of the company, you were instructed to set up a monitoring system that will notify the IT operations team if there are any buckets that allow public read or public write access. The team will then liaise with the compliance team if the bucket is indeed intended to be publicly accessible. Which of the following is the most suitable solution that you can do in order to meet the requirements? Okay, so first, enable AWS config to monitor your S3 bucket ACLs and policies for compliance violation. Create an IAM role policy that grants the Lambda function permission to read S3 and send alerts through SNS. Configure a CloudWatch event rule that triggers Lambda. When an AWS config detects a policy violation, create a Lambda function that uses the IAM role to review S3 bucket policies and notify the IT operations team of out-of-clients policy. Actually, this is quite good as an option. So let me park that. Next, use the S3 bucket public read prohibited and S3 public write prohibited manage rules. Oh, so this one, this is a managed rule. So I wouldn't know actually if these are available or really made or AWS maintained rules that will automatically notify the IT operations team if someone uploaded publicly accessible and writable files to S3. So this is a good question since I don't know if these are actually maintained or even available rules. So let me just assume it is. Let me park it there. Next, enable AWS organization to set up a SCP that will restrict all users to upload public objects to S3. Set up a Lambda function and an SNS topic that will notify the IT operation if there's an attempt made by a user to upload a public object. So here we're using SCP on the organization's level. It's a policy. So by default, if there's an attempt, you can actually use CloudTrail to check that action. But because CloudTrail is also not mentioned here, this answer wouldn't be sufficient. So your SCP will block that restriction, and then you can probably use something like, like I said, CloudTrail or an event, which is still again using CloudTrail to check the to trigger the Lambda function. So we'll pause this here. This is not applicable for us. Next, enable Amazon S3 block public access with block public ACLs, ignore public ACLs. Basically, this one naman also stops your settings. And so, in this case, not really more about liaising. It's really enforcing the policy. But here in the question, it's not always required that the buckets are just private. No? There are times that you'll have to be notified and ask permission if it's public or not. So right now I'm torn between the first option and the second option. So let's just reread this, create policy. So you have your Lambda running the rules or scanning and send the alert to SNS. Configure a CloudWatch event rule that triggered Lambda. So while this sounds correct, we know that the answer here really lies with AWS config. So it's either, and both uses AWS config. Now, in terms of rule permission, I am just guessing that the first option, while it might be the inner working, sounds too tedious, and probably AWS would have already made a managed policy for this. So let me just use this second as my answer. Now I am in review mode. So when I click check, I will be given immediately the answer. So unlike the time mode, I will immediately find out if I am right or wrong, if I'm error. By the way, guys, I'll also show you that there's a dark mode before I click check. But do note that in the dark mode, these areas are not readable. So you'll have to highlight it to be readable or maybe toggle it again and again. But we'll give you that. I'll definitely mention this to the creators so that they can correct this problem. Okay, so let me see if I'm correct. I'll use that as my option. I'll click check. And no, it is wrong. So the first option was indeed correct, and it explains why or how it's being used using the AWS config, and why it is wrong in terms of just using the permission is that because, and basically the rule is defined, but in terms of sending the notification, These rules don't affect the actual action. So this is just the rule checking, but the what to do afterwards, or the notification in this case, is not set up in the rule itself. Okay, so a little tricky there. Yeah, so I guess it shows me that I should reread more about AWS config. No? So maybe if the combination here was this was the rule, but adding a um, a trigger using Lambda in this part, this section here. So maybe the first section plus this second section would have been a good answer, so that I don't have to use my own rule or my own custom rule, but using the AWS managed rule. So that was incorrect for me. Okay, so this is the review mode, and again, you can jump to another question. Okay, mark it as review, unreview it, mark it as review. Okay, dark mode once more, and basically you also get a final section. So this is section based. Sorry, we skipped this. With section based, okay, let's look at section based. So section based gives you the domain, each domain differently. So if you've actually taken a domain already, like this one, it's crossed out. So if I look at this domain here, I'm given only a few questions, because basically in this case, I wouldn't be given the full 65, because in one domain, it has to represent a percentage only. So let's reread this in this section, control. This is the cost control. So you are working for a fintech startup as a solutions architect, where you are setting up a cloud architecture that uses an ALB in front of a ASG on on-demand EC2 instances. To lower down the overall cost, one EC2 instance should be terminated whenever the overall CPU utilization is at 15% or lower. In this scenario, how would you implement a cost-effective, scalable architecture to satisfy the requirement? So first option is use scheduled actions in auto-scaling configuration to automatically terminate EC2 instances when CPU utilization hits below 15%. So using scheduled actions, that's time-based. It's not metric-based. So we can eliminate that. Next, configure a monitoring script that sends out an email using SNS when the CPU utilization is less than 15%, so that the administrator can manually remove an EC2 instance. While this is quite possible, this is still manual, as your administrator has to manually remove it. So this is not a scalable or even the most cost-effective, because it depends when the administrator will take action. So we'll also eliminate that. Next, use CloudWatch for monitoring and configure the scaling in policy of the auto-scaling group to terminate one EC2 instance when the CPU utilization is 15% or below. That sounds awesome, and so that's our answer here. Lastly, use AWS Lambda trigger to send a notification to the auto-scaling group when the CPU utilization is less than 15% to kick off scaling in policy to remove the EC2 instance. So in this case, while it does sound correct, there is no way for Lambda at this point to find out, Lambda being an event-based or could be schedule-based as well, to find out or to trigger it. No? So it's metric-based, so we would use CloudWatch instead. So in our section base, it looks like our review mode. So if I click check, I'm immediately given the answer, which is correct, that I would use CloudWatch and auto-scaling group for my scale-in policy. Right? So it gives me the explanation and also further references. The final test. So basically in the final test, I am taking this. So in the final test, you are given a random set. So all questions asked previously in the 3 different modes are randomized and put into one question. So this is 75 questions. So they are arranged to mimic the actual exam itself. You will see that I have 3 hours here to take this exam. So I'm also lucky that the first question was the question I got. So we already looked at this before. So I'm quite lucky. So we know that the CloudWatch for monitoring or measuring policy is our answer. Let's look at another question. A supermarket chain is planning to launch an online shopping website to allow its loyal shoppers to buy their groceries online. Oh, we need this right now because a lot of our cities are in lockdown because of COVID-19. Since there are a lot of online shoppers at any time of the day, the website should be highly available 24/7 and fault tolerant. Which of the following options provide the best architecture that meets the above requirement? Okay, so deploy the website across 2 AZs with auto-scaled instances each, and an RDS instance deployed with read replicas in 2 separate availability zones. So that's actually quite nice. You also have your read replicas. Let's see if there are better options here. Deploy the website across 3 AZs with auto-scaling instance behind an application load balancer. So now we're using a application load balancer also. One RDS instance deployed with read replicas in 2 separate availability zones. Again, still plausible. We're still okay here. Next, deploy the website across 2 AZs with auto-scaled instances behind an application load balancer and an RDS configured with multi-AZ deployments. Now this one actually sounds great because now I have an AZ, I have a load balancer, and also I'm using multi-AZ. Now I'm not using a read replica here, as you can see, while the read replica is a performance-based. Okay, so it's not really fault tolerance. No? So this is performance would be read replica. And then last option is deploy the website across 3 AZs with auto-scaled EC2 instances behind an application load balancer and a RDS configured with multi-AZ deployment. So the difference here is basically 1 is 2, 1 is 3. So let's see. So which following options provide best architecture? Now this is quite tricky. So I would use definitely more availability zones if possible. So I would use the 3 AZs in this case. Yeah, 3 AZs would be best for me. In fact, well, this is a solution I would choose. I would also actually in real life probably add read replicas as well. Okay, so again, this is the final test. So I'll have to go through all 75 questions to find out. So if you don't want to do that, you can click next just to submit and then pick quiz summary. So you'll see that I answered question 1 and question 2. I'll just click finish quiz in this case. So for sure I will fail because I only answered 2. And let's see the results. So the results, obviously the first one we already knew it was correct. The second one, it's also correct. So we're using the 3 AZs. Okay. So you can see here, I guess it didn't explain why 3 would be better than 2, but basically getting more AZs is much better than 2 AZs, you know. But actually, as a minimum standard, at least maintain 2 AZs. But if you can use 3, since there's no cost component here, 3 is actually quite good to maintain also. And lastly, you have your bonus section, which is your flashcards. So flashcards section is quite unique as that you are able to see the a summary. So it's a way for you to go through some designs and also the topic here. So for example, here you're using a lambda function as a target for an application load balancer. You'll see here that's in step 5, register target, and you can see that I'm choosing a lambda function. Okay, so basically it's just a quick way for you to look through. Okay, so here's plot feet allocation, a quick way to you to review and check. And then lastly, here there's an obstruct stack. Do take note that you can see that in this particular flashcard, I've already marked as complete. And it's just a way for me to see that I've marked it as complete. I cannot uncomplete it. So again, example is if I mark the next section as it's still in progress, the moment I mark it as complete, I cannot mark it as in progress anymore. Okay? So you see, if I go back to the DynamoDB streams, there's no option for me to revert it back. So I guess that's the main difference between the what do you call this? The flashcards. Now you might be wondering, at the moment, should I get all courses? So I would say definitely get all courses if possible. Now, just to highlight the value of the courses in Tutorials Dojo is that you have all 6 courses here. They are basically 14 or close to $15 each. So if you buy all 6 of them, that's actually just around $75. So that's actually even less than the Cloud Practitioner exam. In fact, that is almost half of taking any certification exam. But if you actually add or get all 6 at one time, if you look at the sale option, you can get all 6 and get a 40% discount, and you will get it for only $53 or $54, approximate $54, and you get all 6. Now, even if you are just considering one of these exams now, maybe you are just doing the cloud prep at the moment, but given that you want to excel and you are here, basically you want to elevate your skills, I would suggest buying all 6 right now because anyway, they maintain a good feedback mechanism. They also update their question bank regularly. And so even if you are buying it now and you'll take the professional level in 1 year's time, you'll still be quite amazed that in 1 year's time, the professional level is still quite up to date. Okay? So my suggestion here now is buy 6 courses immediately, especially now that they're still in beta mode and it has its discounts. Okay? So I'll just show you their highlight. So let's look at SAA. You'll see it's in beta mode. A little annoying that you have to, it always pops up even if you close it once. The next time you visit it again, it will show. So this one, SAA mode, it still uses the first exam, but from March 23 onwards, March 23, 2020, they will update this to follow the second version of the exam already. So as you can see, they will update this. It will not be a new purchase. You'll just have to use the same course. Okay, so it will not be necessary to buy or rebuy if they will release a new version. Okay, so you'll see that they update the content 2 to 3 times a month. So even if you just want to keep up or refresh or just stay in touch with the exams, you'll get that. They're actually very responsive. The instructors themselves are quite responsive. And lastly, you'll see that it's actually maintained by AWS certified professionals, which some of which have already guested in the show as well. Okay, so that's the last section. This is purely made in the Philippines by Filipinos. So I would suggest you guys check it out. And if you have questions or if you have any concerns with the platform, you can reach out to the owners. They're quite responsive. Or if you want to see other sections of the site being in this video or run through, don't forget to just comment and give me feedback on it. So that actually ends my demo at the moment. So funny story here is that I actually also did a demo just a couple hours back, or maybe a few minutes back. But when I recorded that initial demo and I played it, it had no sounds. So I had to redo all the demo again. That would have been a better demo because I actually got a better score in that previous demo, but no sounds. So I had to redo it. So that concludes this demo or run through or basically review of the new portal of the Tutorials Dojo. It's still in beta mode, so I foresee that they will still improve the platform in many ways. And while the platform definitely uh, still has some quirks, the actual questions and the actual content is already quite valuable. So if you are thinking of purchasing a practice exam, aside from the official AWS practice exam, which might be expensive, I would highly recommend the Tutorials Dojo practice exam as your first line, or basically your immediate question bank to use in preparation for any of the AWS exams available that they have. Okay, so again, that's it. Thank you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And I hope we can use and we can see more questions prepared by Tutorials Dojo in our coming episodes where we may answer more of their question bank in randomized order. Right? Okay, so thank you and goodbye. Bye.